Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about APA references lists. This is the bibliography that goes with an APA paper. In MLA, they're called works cited pages. In APA, these are references lists. Now, I'm going to give you a very, very rough guide to some APA references styles. Basically, I think these are the ones that, as a student author, particularly in the social sciences, which is the set of disciplines most likely to use APA citations, these are the kinds of things that you're most likely to need. However, there are a lot of variations of citations. This is true with any citation style, MLA, APA, Chicago style, whatever it is. And so you probably want to become familiar with some of the variations you might need to know, things like books with multiple editions, multi-volume works, things like that. In order to do that, you can use an official APA reference guide like this one right here. This is the official 7th edition, which is at time of filming, September 2022. Wow, that was a thing that happened. 7th edition, this is the current APA guide. There's also shorter reference guides like this one, or the Purdue Online Writing Lab, the Purdue OWL, has a really, really good APA format guide, and I will put a link to that in the description down below this video. So I am going to share this very basic guide to some main types of APA citations that student authors are likely to use. So what I'll show you on this first page is a sort of breakdown of what information goes in what order. And then in just a little bit, I'll show you a sample references page. So the references page itself, this will come on its own page, or it'll start on its own page at the end of the document. So new page, centered at the top in bold is going to be the word references. Everything on this page, as with the rest of an APA essay, will be double spaced. All of the citations are going to be listed in alphabetical order by the first piece of information that we see, which is the primary author's last name. The reason for this is so that you can scan down the margin of the references list in order to find a particular citation, because that's the thing that's going to correspond to what we see in the APA in-text citation. It's going to be, generally speaking, the author's last name and the date of publication. So author's last name is the first thing that we would look for. And so that's why things are in alphabetical order. That's also why citations are set up with a hanging indent. So that's this right here. The first line will be flush with the margin, and each subsequent line will be indented. I've done a video before on how to set up a hanging indent. Make sure that you have Microsoft Word do this for you. Do not try to do it by hand, because then if you realize that some of the information in your citation needs to be revised, you're going to end up with weird long gaps in the middles of your citations, and you don't want that. So I'll very quickly show you how to do this, but there is a more in-depth video elsewhere. Basically, what you would do, if you've written your citations already, you just highlight the text, and then up in this paragraph tab, you're going to open this up, and under indentation, under special, just select hanging, and that's going to automatically do this. You can also do that at the beginning when you start creating your references list, and that's probably a wise thing to do. Now, let's talk about the citations themselves. So this first one is for a basic book citation. This is the foundational, fundamental citation style. You're going to give us the author's last name, comma, first initial, middle initial, if the middle initial is available. If not, first initial. The author's last name and initials. I actually have no idea why APA only uses initials rather than full names, but that is the norm for most citations. Following that, in parentheses, you're going to give us the date of publication. For most sources, this will only be the year of publication. And a big part of the reason that the year of publication is so important is because the APA disciplines, the social sciences especially, but also the hard sciences, which frequently use APA, current information is much more important than it generally is with the humanities or the arts. So that's also the reason that the date is incorporated into the in-text citation for APA format, is to make it very, very easy for authors to assess how current this data is. After that, you're going to give us the italicized book title. Now, one thing about APA is that most titles are listed with just the first letter of the first word capitalized. Proper names are still capitalized. So if you have someone's name or a place name or something like this, that still gets capitalized. But basically, you treat it more like a sentence than you would like a title in MLA, where every significant word would be capitalized. And then the last thing in a typical book citation is the publisher. So who released this book? Then if you have found this source digitally, you would want to include a DOI or a stable URL at the end of it. A DOI, as we see listed here, a DOI is a digital object identifier. And that's basically a number that fixes an object in digital space. So in principle, as long as the internet exists, something with a DOI will be locatable through that DOI. Most scholarly documents will have a DOI. Sometimes it's easier to find than others. If you have a DOI on a digital object and you can find it, that's a great thing to include. So that's a basic book citation. For this second entry, this is an article with 2 or more authors. So when you have sources with multiple authors, which is very, very common in the sciences, you're going to list all of the authors' names. So in this case, I've listed 1 comma and period B period. So that would be that author, last name, initials, etc., followed by an ampersand, that and sign. And then the second author listed the same way, last name, comma, initials. If you have 3 or more authors, it would be the first author, comma, initials, comma, second author's last name, comma, initials, comma, ampersand, third author's name, etc. So when you have more than 2 authors, you're going to set that list up like a list with commas between each author's name. Then again, date of publication. The title of the article is going to be in just plain script, plain font. So it's not italicized, it's not underlined, it's not bolded or anything like that. Again, capitalizing only the first letter of the first word, including the first letter of the first word of the subtitle, if there's a subtitle, and then again, obviously, any proper nouns. Going to follow that with the journal title in italics, comma, the volume number in italics. So scholarly journals tend to have both volume and issue number. Usually, if you get something like 4.1, that's volume 4, issue number 1. So 4 would then be listed in italics, and then with no space between it, in parentheses and plain script, you're going to list the number. So for this example, that would be 4 in italics, in plain script parentheses, 1 close parentheses. And then you're going to give us the page range. So that would be from the first page of the article through the last page of the article. Fairly straightforward. And then again, if this is an electronic source, you're going to give us the DOI, or a stable URL. For this source, we have an article or a chapter in an edited collection. So that means this is from a book that somebody other than the author has edited and put together. So in this case, you're going to list, again, the author of the actual chapter, their last name, and then initials, date of publication, title of the chapter in plain script. So this is set up like the opening portion of a journal article, but then you're going to list the editor of this book. So in the initials, then the editor's last name, parentheses, capital ED period, close parentheses. That capital ED indicates editor, or EDS if you've got multiple editors. Lowercase ed is edition, capital E in ed is editor. Then the italicized title of the edited collection. In parentheses, this time you're going to give us the page range, and then the publisher or the press that's released this edited collection. Again, if it's electronic, try and give us a DOI or a stable URL. And then the last citation I'm going to show you here is for a news article or a magazine article. I'm going to start with the author's last name and initials. No surprises there. But then here you're going to give us the full date of publication. So the year, comma, month, date. Full information about when this was published for news or magazine articles. Then the title in plain script, the name of the magazine or newspaper in italics, and then if this comes from an online source, you're going to give us the URL. Again, there are a lot of potential variations on some of these citations. So these are things that you want to be aware of. Things like multi-volume works or subsequent editions of books, second editions, third editions, eighth editions, 20th editions, whatever it is. Books with translators. Any of these sorts of things require additional information that you would have to both know is additional information that needs to be incorporated, but also you would have to know how to figure out where to put that information in. And that's where APA guides or Purdue OWL can be really, really useful. But again, you have to become familiar enough with APA formatting in order to know that this is additional information that's going to need to be included. So I want to just very briefly show you this sample references list. This has a number of different types of sources cited on it. I'm not going to go through all of them in detail, but I'll identify them for you. And then you can sort of pause this if you want and look at them in more detail if that's your jam. So this first citation here, Ash, K, this is a news piece. It's specifically an opinion editorial piece published in HuffPost. We can tell this because it's got the full date of publication. HuffPost, we know, is a news source. We've got a URL, etc., etc. Cook and Cook citation. This is a fairly straightforward journal article, except that it's been found digitally, which we know because we have a DOI at the end. This is one of the two ways that you may see a DOI, by the way, is just DOI colon a number. But the other thing that's slightly distinctive about this is we do have two authors listed. So that's a thing to keep in mind, mostly because that affects the way that this article would be cited in text. Following that, we've got a chapter from an edited collection. We know that because we have editors listed in RM Hodap and DJ Fiddler, parentheses, eds with a capital E. So we know that this is an edited collection. Somewhat unusually, this is an edited collection that also has a volume number. So a lot of edited collections are published as just standalone books, but there are edited collections that are published as parts of series. And so those series may include a volume number. So when that's included, this is another piece of information that needs to be put in the citation. This next source, this is a journal article found electronically with multiple authors. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 authors here. Again, that's a thing that's more important in terms of in-text citations than it necessarily is in terms of the references list. But again, you can see here between each author's name, we have a comma to indicate that this is a subsequent author. And then finally, we get the ampersand for the last one. Here, we don't have a DOI. We have what's called a stable URL. DOI is probably better, but a stable URL is really useful as well because this also fixes an object in digital space. So we know that as long as you have that stable URL, it should function. Next, we've got a book. This is a book with 2 authors, and it is a second edition of a book. So again, that's another piece of information that you need to know to incorporate into that citation. And then last, we've got just a very basic, straightforward article found electronically, single author, etc., etc. So this is the basic stuff. Again, I think for the most part, if you've got this sort of guide to your APA references, you should be able to write most papers that students will be called upon to write.